So Jamie wanted to impress Megan because I guess Jamie really feels like Megan is a great hostess who really knows how to party. So she's going to make a veggie tray and listen to what happens here.
Proud of you. The effort was A for effort. It was an A for effort. And
Okay, so this is Jamie's charcuterie board, and Megan's like,
well, A for effort.
"What's wrong with that? I'd be happy. Dang, I would just like freaking grab that dang carrot like it was like I was Bugs Bunny and start gnawing on it. Like that looks good to me. You got your cheese, you got your little dressing. Looks like you got a little thing of grapey grapes there. Your salami. What's wrong with that?" But Megan's gonna be like, "It wasn't that great, but A for effort." It's really sad that Jamie is gonna lower herself like this and make it seem like Megan's so much better than her. Nobody is better than anybody. This is such nonsense. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jennifer. I'm so happy to have you here. Okay, so I don't know what kind of mood you're in. I don't know if you're ready for this, but if you are, I want you to buckle in because this is a big one. There was a podcast that came out recently from Jamie Lynn Kerma is her name, and she hosted the Duchess of Sussex for about an hour and 15-minute long interview. I don't know if you would call it an interview, as just a lot of self-serving, self-love, fakery platitudes, new agey, soul-searching, cringe, bad life slash bad business advice extravaganza. This thing was so unbelievably bad. I definitely need trauma counseling after this one. So if you want to stick around and you want to listen to my analysis and my commentary on this thing, buckle up, because I do get into the minutia of this thing, but I feel like it's really important to do so because I feel like there's so many of these elitist, narcissistic personality types out in the public domain now that are constantly shoving themselves in our faces, and they're entirely self-serving, and they send misleading and hypocritical messages over and over and over, and it's just really weird, and it's a minefield sometimes to try to navigate these people and to figure out what they're trying to do, because what they're really trying to do is just invade our psyche and make it seem like their weird and divisive and just ugly, nasty behavior is normal when it is clearly not. So like I said, Megan was on this woman Jamie's podcast, and it was just over an hour of just really bad advice, bad business advice, bad life advice, a bunch of new agey woo-woo self-love platitudes that mean absolutely nothing. Megan also tries to give us all business advice because, as you know, she is so ambitious and she is so successful, and she's building her as ever empire, and she has so much to share about how she juggles it all. Also, she's a victim. Again, she is a victim, and she doesn't listen to anything anyone says about her, and we should all just live like Megan and just rise above all of this nonsense. Well, I hate to say it, but what these two women are peddling is a bunch of nonsense. There is nothing to take away from this. It's just the same old self-love, self-actualization. I don't have to prove myself to anyone. I'm perfect and worthy the way that I am. The woman hosting the show, Jamie Lynn, she wrote a book called Worthy, and oh, does she want you to know about this book. She plugs this book endlessly throughout this podcast. I am not even kidding. And it got to the point where I felt like, okay, am I listening to a podcast interview or am I watching an infomercial? Because that's exactly how I felt. I felt like I was watching an infomercial. And Jamie's style of hosting and asking questions, it was so unbelievably sugary sweet. And Jamie herself, before she founded her It Cosmetics empire and sold it to L'Oreal for close to $1 billion or at $1 billion or something, but okay, this woman is crazy rich. But she was a newscaster before she became a cosmetics company mogul. So I don't think that whole newscaster presentation style has ever left her, because she really seems kind of stilted and in it. And it just doesn't translate in an intimate podcast interview type setting. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting really sick of all these elites like the Oprahs and the Michelle Obamas and the Meghan Markles and the Jamie of the world coming into the social media space, the podcast space, which for so long was just independent, normal people voices, and infringing in our area. I just kind of feel almost territorial. Like, you know what? They've had the grasp of mainstream media and all the rag mags in their back pocket for years and years, and they still do. I mean, look at Megan. She still pumps out all these garbage articles through magazines like People with her PR machine, but it's kind of like, if you want to venture into the podcast medium, the long form, relaxed, conversational medium that is podcasting, y'all are doing it just abominably wrong. This is just so bad. And they're always banging on about authenticity. There's nothing authentic about it. Jamie sounds, looks, and just like a newscaster the entire time. She's just so rehearsed and so like bubbly, and I don't know, like maybe she really is like that in person, and great if you are, but it just felt so faked and so just, we will definitely get into it, but it was bad. It was bad. And at the heart of all this nonsense, it's all this self-focus garbage. Look at me, look at me, look at everything I've built, look at everything I've overcome. So many people have been naysayers. I'm such a victim. And even though I'm a victim and I've come out stronger and smarter on the other side, and that's why I'm so worthy and you should emulate me. I call this kind of stuff, all this self-help, woo-woo, new agey stuff, the gospel according to Oprah. It's like, I subscribed to this type of garbage for so long in my 20s and early 30s when I was single, when I was away from God. 26 years out of my life, I was away from my faith and felt like I could get it all figured out on my own, and through this type of nonsense, like these self-help guru type book. Like I said, it's just all a first class ticket to nowhere, because it is such an emphasis on the self and all this navel gazing. And it's like, you get so involved in the self, and that is what leads to nowhere, because you cannot find happiness just in and of yourself, because human beings were made for love and we were made for connection. And where we're going to find the ultimate happiness is looking outside of ourselves, to stop focusing so much inward and wanting and needing all these things always coming back to us. So I'm going to get into all that, especially as we're listening to just this inane conversation between these two women. And it is so shallow. It is so vapid. And like I said, the advice is terrible. And especially at certain points in the video, they were talking about spirituality and I guess what they can think is spiritual advice to give to the viewer. And I was like, oh, Jesus, please help me. Like, I cannot, like, I felt like I needed to stop in the middle of it and just say a rosary to be like, oh God, help me, please. It was bad. It was bad. And once we start watching it, you are going to see exactly what I'm talking about when I tell you that it doesn't even feel like a normal podcast. Like, say if you were to listen to someone like a Joe Rogan or a Tucker Carlson or a Candace Owens, it's like, you can just tell that those people are just asking the questions. And sure, they probably have some prepared notes and questions and stuff, but that you can tell that the conversation is always veering off into interesting places that they didn't necessarily prepare for, but that's what makes it so interesting. And you want to watch because you just feel like you're really getting to know someone. And this entire podcast, if you could even call it that, it's not a podcast. It's like an infomercial. And I was asking myself, why is Jamie doing this? Why is she putting someone as divisive as Meghan Markle on her podcast? And I'm trying to think like, okay, think the way that maybe a self-serving elitist narcissist would think. And I don't know if for sure Jamie is one. I can just, observe what I observe watching this woman, but she doesn't seem too deep, okay? And I'm thinking, okay, what are these two getting out of doing this? Well, I know for sure what Megan's getting out of it. She is looking at this as yet another opportunity for her to kind of reframe her narrative and get it out there to again show us how she's so put upon, how she's a victim, she's a wonderful mother, she's a wonderful friend, she's a wonderful human being. Here's all the things that we don't know about her, and she's just going to shove that in our face. So it's yet another opportunity for her to try to hopefully raise her esteem in our eyes, right? And I guess Jamie's getting clicks on her podcast. I don't know what kind of viewership she has in the past for her podcast, but I looked and I think she was probably over, I want to say 200K on this specific episode on YouTube. but she left the comments open and they're pretty scathing. So if you're interested, go check it out. The thing that would probably want to prompt Jamie to have Megan on her podcast is because she knows she can get eyeballs on it, because she knows that Megan is divisive. It's like the inane questions that she's asking Megan makes me think that, of course, the questions were agreed upon ahead of time, because they're all softball questions. And the way that Jamie speaks to Megan makes me seem like the friendship is very new and or very shallow, because I don't believe for one microsecond that someone like Jamie, who supposedly is such a savvy businesswoman, has no idea Megan's reputation in the press and in the world, how she's upset pretty much the entire UK and the Commonwealth. She's upset people in the US. She's terrorized both sides of the Atlantic. So I don't understand how these crazy self-serving new age guru Montecito types that are going on her show and on her podcast, like they're all just like blissfully unaware that she's so divisive, or when they do recognize that she has criticism, they act like it's so unwarranted. And it's such a, oh my gosh, it's just such a pearl clutch moment. Like, how could she be criticized? So it's just this weird, inane world that these elites live in. And you will get the vibe very, very quickly as we go into the podcast, if we can call it that. Let's just call it an infomercial, because that's really what it is. So Megan's selling herself in this infomercial, and Jamie's trying to sell her book and I guess get more clicks and viewership on her podcast. There's a few other things I want to mention to you, and I'm going to make a separate video on this because I'm an esthetician and a makeup artist and I love skincare and makeup. That's my jam. And there is at least 3 or 4, maybe more mentions about how they're not wearing makeup. They both make a pointed effort to tell the viewer that they're not wearing makeup. They're just showing up, just like their face, bare and fresh, and they're just going to bare their souls. And I don't know if they think that gives them more of a authenticity vibe, or that they're more open and they're more truthful because they're not wearing makeup. First of all, I can tell you right now, that's a load of BS. I know the no makeup look when I see it, and we're going to talk about that at length and why it annoys me to no end when women do this. I have no makeup on, when it's clearly a lie. Like it's clear to me that you have something on your face. So it's like, why go there? I mean, let's call it what it is. It's so stupid. So I'm going to have a whole separate video on that, but I just don't understand the reasoning behind it. And I'll get into why that annoys me so much. And then I'll even give you a little tutorial about how Megan probably did her no makeup look for this infomercial. So it's going to be good. So keep an eye out for that one. The other thing I wanted to tell you is, for Megan's first iteration of her podcast, The Archetypes, remember it was just audio only, right? And the Confessions of a Female Founder podcast that she's doing right now, that's audio only as well. Her latest podcast, the Confessions one, was probably all done and in the can, ready to release at least 6 months ago, maybe as long as a year, but I'm guessing at least 6 months ago. And Megan has not even considered, I don't think, a video podcast format, to her detriment. And let me tell you why. Because podcasts are exploding, but even more than that, video podcasts are exploding. People in 2025, I think since the pandemic, are more sheltered. They don't have as much face-to-face time with real live people the way we did pre-pandemic, if that makes sense. So video podcast conversation, long form style, people like the video. They like seeing the podcast host and they like seeing the guest and they like to see and hear somebody. It's human. We like to see face, body language, what they're wearing, what they look like, expressions, all that good stuff. So I think if Megan would be advised now, she probably would have been told, you need to get a video podcast on. Now, whether she was told that back then when she was doing the Confessions episodes and she didn't take that advice, whatever. But my point is, I think that Jamie must have tried to convince her hard to do a video podcast, because Megan has a lot of tells when she is not being forthcoming. She likes to touch her nose. She likes to touch her face. She likes to touch her hair. She's always doing all these weird tells that body language experts always point out when they're saying that this is what narcissists do when they're lying or when they're stretching the truth or whatever. So it's harder for her to hide when she is doing a long form video like this. So To me, when I was watching it, I was feeling that she looked very, very rehearsed. And we know because she has specific talking points. So say if she's doing a series of interviews, for example, last week when she did the Time 100, she talks about some things on the Time 100 stage that she's also talking about here in this video infomercial podcast. It seems rehearsed. I think that she was probably very, very nervous to do a video format interview. Again, because she likes them short, she likes them sweet, and she probably wants to make sure that she has access to every single question before it's being answered. I still think that probably happened in this case, but there were a few things that Jamie did ask her where I was kind of like, that's kind of cool that she asked that. Let's see what she has to say. I was actually a little bit surprised that Megan had agreed to do a video podcast. I should call it infomercial, and agreed to have it this long because it's harder and harder for her to hide her fake persona, to hide a lot of her insecurities and a lot of the falsehoods that she likes to weave when the camera is fixated on her for over an hour. The questions were shallow and the questions really went nowhere, and they were asked in such a way in order to solicit the same type of canned answers that Megan gives all the time. And I'm listening to some of these inane questions that Jamie Lynn, or whatever her name is I'm just going to call her Jamie. She has 3 names, but it's annoying, just Jamie. So when Jamie asks these questions, I'm just thinking to myself, there is no way that any real podcast interviewer that wants to conduct an engaging and entertaining interview is going to ask these type of stupid, boring questions. The questions were just ridiculous. And the very last thing I promise that I'm going to tell you before we get into this podcast is what I find so disturbing about watching infomercials like this, where we're being gaslit and where we're being sold this new age fake persona garbage that's actually self-serving just to the people that are putting it on, not to the people that are watching it like you and me, is that I grew up in a time, and even my mom grew up in a time when, there's always been scandals. There's always been scandals for, say, celebrities, politicians, all that type of stuff. And usually in those types of situations where there was bad behavior, these famous people would do either one of two things. They would either just drop out of the public eye completely and let the storm ride out, or often they would conduct an interview, either a print interview or a television interview, where they would allow themselves to be asked really hard, uncomfortable questions, but they were doing it in an effort to come clean, so to speak, and to regain public trust. But I really find more and more now with this rise of social media, and now when these celebrities are seeing more and more that they're losing control of their fake narratives. For example, the Blake Lively's and Ryan Reynolds of the world, and of course the Megans and the Prince Harrys. They're losing control of their narratives, and they're losing control because their bad behavior is on public display for everyone to see. So you would have either one or two ways that a person would react. They would either do the fight or the flight syndrome. So if they would allow themselves to just drop away, get out of the public eye for a while, let things calm down, that would be akin to the flight response, right? Or if they figured, okay, the jig is up, I got to come clean, I got to just let myself be asked the hard questions, try to clear my name, atone, apologize, whatever it is, they would just face it head on. That would be the more fight response. That's what I remember mostly growing up with when I was looking in the media and seeing all these weird things. I remember being in my 20s, watching the whole Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky thing go down. And Monica sat down for an interview that was probably super uncomfortable for her. But what you're seeing now, you're not seeing that from the Megans and the Blake Lively's and the Ryan Reynolds. What you're seeing is this weird type of thing where they just don't address it at all. They just keep doing these weird fake robotic smiles where they're waving and they're smiling as if to be like, everything's fine, nothing to see here. And it's really pissing people off. It's like that uncanny valley effect where they don't look like real humans. They look like robots mimicking humans in their behavior and the way they're just like, everything's great. They're showing up on red carpets posing. They're acting like nothing's wrong. They're acting like they didn't do anything to warrant all the criticism that's being hurled at them. And it's just very dangerous because it's just setting a precedent for a lot of young, impressionable people to look at this type of behavior and think, well, I guess that's okay, but there's zero accountability there. So that's another reason why I just hate these fake saccharine type of interviews with people like Meghan Markle, when people like her are embroiled of a firestorm of controversy, but yet the reasons why she found herself in the eye of the storm, those questions aren't being asked. Like, that situation's not being addressed. I'm a victim, and if you continue to criticize me, then you have the problem, not me. It's just so irritating to watch. And I don't want you or me to watch these type of people and continue to feel bad and gaslit by them. We're not criticizing these people for things that they can't control, like their race or their gender, which is the famous thing that they love to hurl at us. That's not the issue. We are critiquing these people because of their just disgraceful and disgusting behavior. And it usually involves hurling fake accusations like racism, like misogyny, like bullying, harassment. They file vexatious, baseless lawsuits against people like the way Harry does, like the way Ryan and Blake do. It's just completely despicable behavior. That's why they're being criticized, because we can see what's going on. We can see that a lot of their accusations are false and misleading, and we have real evidence to point to that. We have evidence to point to the fact that something's wrong here, and what they're alleging and what they're saying and how they're acting is wrong, and here's why. We have the evidence, we know, but yet they smile and wave. It's just creepy. And what's even more than creepy, what's disgusting, is that the ultimate hypocrisy here is the people like the Blakes and the Ryans and the Megans and the Harrys. They're often accused of the same horrible things that they accuse people of. Look at Meghan and Harry. They've been accused of racism. They've been accused of bullying. For example, Harry being accused of bullying and harassment and misogyny by the chairwoman of his charity, Sentabale, Dr. Sophie Chambuka. Or how about Meghan being accused of bullying people in her employ, both when she was in the UK during her time in the royal family and in her private business endeavors in America. She's been accused of bullying in the workplace on both sides of the Atlantic, but this is never addressed, right? Nothing to see here. Smile and wave, smile and wave. We're going to call for love. We're going to call for compassion. We're going to be the anti-bullying crusaders, but yet she shows no compassion to her husband's family or to her own family. And then you have people like Blake Lively standing up at a Time 100 dinner talking about how her mother was apparently abused and assaulted and escaped with her life, and somehow relaying the story of her mother. And apparently the attacker, some people are saying in the media, was a woman, but okay. But using something like that to somehow garner sympathy for her and
it's not for us to have shame. It's for them. It's not for us to have shame. It's for them.
She's such a change maker, and she's so brave because she's standing up to all of these voices in the media that are against her because she's now accused Justin Baldoni of harassment. There's so much that has come out to poke so many holes in her story. I mean, it's like she's living in a house made of Swiss cheese. There's so many holes in that woman's story. It's just unbelievable. So these people make me ill. These people make me sick. They completely irritate me. And I think it's worth a watch. Tell me what you think about the lies and the falsehoods that these types of people spin, because I do think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous. There's no accountability. The messaging that they're trying to send is money and power can get you out of anything. You can do anything with money and power, and there's zero accountability for your actions. And it's really disgusting. So I'm fired up, you guys. So that's why I want to get into this one. And hopefully I haven't scared you off. There are a few laughs in here because this is just a performance on the part of both Jamie and Meghan. It's just pure performance. It's just really bad acting. So let's get into it. Okay, guys, here we are. Buckle up. Hopefully you have a tasty beverage. I know I do. And we're going to get into this. First thing I want to tell you, there's almost 10 minutes of filler before I keep wanting to say podcast, before the infomercial actually starts. I am not kidding you. Almost 10 minutes. And the first 5 minutes is just these useless, boring clips, basically talking about what's coming up. And the background music that they use for this, it sounds like something that you would hear in that movie, The Secret. It's just so unbelievably new agey cringe. And it's all just talking about Megan, the build up. And then after that, we go into almost 2 minutes or so of Jamie Lee plugging herself. Jamie Lee, sorry, her name's not Jamie Lee. Jamie, of her plugging herself. It's just unbelievable. Just get into it, people. Okay, get into it. That's all we want.
Look back and go, oh my gosh, she has loved us so much. She's an American member
About that
of the British
secret
royal family,
vibe
an
music.
entrepreneur, author, actor, founder of the lifestyle brand As Ever that just sold out.
So she just goes into this long resume of Megan for a freaking ever. And then at the 5:30 mark, she starts going on about the podcast. Welcome. This is the podcast. I'm Jamie. It's like, we know, we're tuned in. Get with
for
it.
the first time. Hi, I'm Jamie. Welcome
to the Jamie Kern
And then all this
Oprah.
garbage with Oprah and Mel Robbins, and they were showing Ed Milet and different people. Like, do we need to see this? She's trying to, I guess, build street cred at this point, showing us that all these elites have gone on her show. For me, that would make me not want to watch this. Let's just put it that way.
How have you defied the odds?
Her show is unlike any I've ever done.
A revelation. When you listen, it feels like a hug, but
It feels like a hug. This show feels like a hug, guys. Are you feeling the love? I am.
your brain and your spirit and your heart is like, wow.
Melinda French Gates.
Yeah, we all want to listen to Melinda Gates, right? Yeah, I'm sure.
When I look into Jamie's eyes, I feel like I am on some other cosmic level with her.
I could see the light around her. She's infused with light.
Wow. There's a barrel of laughs, Chelsea Handler. Okay, so you get the gist here. So it's just talking about how wonderful her show is. And then where we're going to start now is Jamie's going to talk to us about the concept of the rocking chair. And the reason why it's important here, let me press
I am so happy that
the reason why it's important is because she's telling you that she has these rocking chairs and all of her very close, dear friends sit in them with her. And they just talk about life and motherhood and the struggles of being a super massively wealthy victim. And she's going to have this podcast with Megan in the rocking chairs, and they're not wearing any makeup. So they're rocking in the rocking chairs and they're not wearing makeup, and they're going to be completely transparent and open up to us in ways that we've never heard before. And they're going to be so authentic that we're not going to be able to know what to do with ourselves. We're just going to be bowled over by all this authenticity. And she talks about the rocking chairs. She says, picture in your later years, when you're sitting in your rocking chair, what people do you want surrounding you? And apparently when she's old and gray, Jamie wants Meghan Markle rocking in a chair next to her while they talk. So yeah, watch this.
that you're here today for such an exciting conversation that I promise you is going to fill your soul today. And I want to share this concept with you of rocking chair friends. I've been obsessed with this idea. So right now, if you
She's obsessed with the idea of rocking chair friends. This isn't a new concept. Someone needs to tell Jamie and her producers that it's just called a podcast. It's just called comfy chairs, and you just sit in front of a mic and you talk to a guest. But she's trying to frame it as if this show's so different because they're authentic. They're not wearing makeup and they're authentic. This is just a bunch of hokey doke. Okay. In my notes, I put down the little markers. And again, I'm sorry if I pause stuff and then talk and then press play. It's just because of copyright. So here we go.
and over the past year, I have spent countless moments in these chairs with Megan, talking about our kids, our goals, our dreams, envisioning the future.
So that gives the idea that they are very close friends. But are they?
Talking about hardships, failures, pain. We've shared ups and downs and laughter and tears. Usually when we're together, we're in our cozy sweats and no makeup. So
What's with this no makeup stuff? So this is probably the 4th or 5th time you're going to hear this. No makeup, no makeup, no makeup. Sorry, this is the first time you're hearing it, but this is about the 10 millionth time I've heard this. So yeah, they're very authentic because they're not wearing makeup.
we are today too, sitting in our cozies with no makeup. And I'm inviting you into the rocking chairs.
It's like, get into it already. And then there's a whole nother minute of this babble until Megan shows up. So here is Megan showing up, and this is just so exciting.
On the Jamie Kern Lima show.
I promise I won't rock too much.
They don't really rock that much.
Oh, we're professionals.
We're professional rockers.
Jamie Kern Lima is her name. Everybody needs Jamie Kern Lima in their life.
And then this is another break. So after 9 minutes, when she finally shows up as the guest, the Duchess of Sussex, we have to watch another plug for Jamie and this show. We already know we've tuned into the Jamie Lynn Kerma show. I mean, can you guys even imagine? Who is behind the scenes okaying this? Who is behind the scenes okaying that this is good? Just get into it already.
Oh, yeah.
Trust is such a big deal. And this is your first ever podcast interview. Thank you for trusting.
Isn't that wild?
It's wild to be here.
Yeah,
you haven't seen any of the questions ahead of time. And we're in our sweats. And
I don't think that this is Megan's first podcast interview. To you? I don't. I think she's a podcast host, Jamie. But if you were a dear friend, you'd know that.
we've talked about how special and important it is for friends to check in on each other and say, you know, are you okay? And on the outside, everything looks great.
So they're talking about making sure that you check in with your friends to ask if they are okay. So the big, most important question that Jamie asks next is, Megan, are you okay?
Because I think in friendship, it's so important. So many people also have this question for you is, Megan, how are you? And are you okay?
That's so kind. I am. I'm better than okay.
Now, who thinks that Megan didn't cook this up behind the scenes? But do you remember in her infamous Tom Bradby interview when she was in Africa, when she said, no one has asked if I'm okay? I would bet you a dozen Dunkin' Donuts that she told Jamie to ask her that, or Jamie, maybe, I don't know, someone told her in her camp to ask that because it's supposed to be in her royal life. No one cared if she was okay. But now that she's free in Montecito and she's surrounded by such love and dear friends, they're asking if she's okay. And that's why it's so wonderful now.
How are you?
I know you always make it about me. Today, I just have to say, you are the most generous friend. You show.
Okay. And that right there kicks off most of the non-stop ass kissing. So let's just buckle in. Around this point of the butt kissing that's going on, Jamie was being rather sweet, I think, and equating her company that she sold for about $1 billion to L'Oreal It Cosmetics. Just to be gracious, I guess, as a hostess, equating her success with Megan's business. And you cannot compare the two. You just absolutely cannot compare the two. Jamie has sold a hugely successful, profitable company, cosmetics company that is now available online, in Ulta's, in Sephora's. Like, it's massive. QVC, all that. It's massive. We don't know how many units Megan has moved. We don't really have proper numbers to evaluate how Megan's business is doing. Megan can't even replenish her spread on her website. So I think it's very interesting how she is equating her success to Jamie's. And Jamie, again, is being gracious and allowing it, but I just think it's comical. And on this part, Megan talks about how she recently took a trip to New York and went to see a Broadway show and how that just nurtured her soul.
I probably haven't seen a Broadway show for over a decade. And it was so energizing to watch.
And there's a lot of whispering. When she really wants to make a point, she's going to whisper. And I think that's all very calculated manipulation. It's supposed to make you lean in closer to try to hear what they're saying and to foster a false sense of intimacy. So these are the weird power plays that these narcissistic, toxic people do.
And for me, a really great experience of fun, but also affirmation that why is this lighting me up to watch creativity in action? It's like, oh, that's what I'm doing with all the projects I'm working on. Like, I had missed being creative and I'd missed being able to just have my hands in the granular of.
And she uses a lot of different buzzwords. So she was just on the Time 100 stage talking about how she was obsessing about the packaging and the boxes and everything regarding the presentation of her packaging for As Ever products. And she was talking about, have my hands in the granular and and the ethos of this and the presentation. And then she's using that word granular again. She's very big on jargon. She's very big on lingo. And you'll notice that when she is talking about her business, she uses a lot of business jargon and she really wants to impress upon the viewer that she's really in the thick of her business.
time-coded edits and bringing a vision to life. And when you watch artists do that and do that with such passion, I think it
And she's equating herself with a Broadway actor, but I
was
digress.
just the most inspiring. So yeah, carving that out and not saying, no, I can't go to New York. Yes, you can go to New York.
Yeah.
You can make time and
Yeah.
go with friends and have a fun dinner.
Yeah.
And all the rest will be there. And you can still hit your deadlines. And actually, you might hit them even better.
She has absolutely no idea about the normal entrepreneurial journey. People that are basically building businesses online or not, people in the trenches building a business from scratch, mortgaging their homes to try to do so, getting loans from friends and family, not having a safety net of millions and millions of dollars to fall back on, not having the name recognition of the Duchess of Sussex. Like, this is so out of touch. These women, particularly Megan, have absolutely no idea what it really means to start a business and how scary that can be. Most people don't have safety nets to fall back on. They have one shot to do it right. She has tons of shots and she's been given tons of shots. So I think that's particularly rich. But anyway, and then the next one I have is basically how Megan talks about, you know how a lot of people say that Megan is perpetually emotionally stunted in her emotional growth, that she's always going to be in between the ages emotionally of 11 to 13. She's so fixated on that. Just listen to this.
To launch a business, how do you feel about that?
I take it really seriously. I always check in with my 11-year-old self
Yeah.
and how important it is to have people that you look up to and role models. I'll tell you.
So now she's going to go into her first story, which you tell me if you think it's made up, because she always has these interesting anecdotes. Either she tells and retells them, or every so often she'll pick a new one to kind of throw out, whether it's true or not. This one is about when she was supposedly 13 years old working at a yogurt shop called Humphrey Yogurts. Okay. Which is a play on the classic film actor Humphrey Bogart's name. I looked this up. I grew up in Southern California. I was born and raised in the LA area, just like Megan. And from what I looked up, if you are under 14, you need to get written permission from your parent in order to work. And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but wasn't she exclusively under her father's care when she was around 13 years old? And he was a single working dad. He was a full-time lighting director on the set of Married with Children. And she had talked about being ushered from school in a car to the set, spent a lot of time on that set because her dad was her primary caregiver. And obviously she needed to be with him. And what I don't understand is, when did they have time to make for her to be working at a yogurt shop? I think Thomas Markle probably had his hands full there. But anyway, she keeps claiming that she worked at some yogurt shop. And basically what she's talking about is she went in the back one day to throw out the trash, and she saw one of the beautiful actresses of Baywatch, Yasmine Bleeth, back there. I don't know why Yasmine Bleeth from Baywatch would be in some back alley where Megan's throwing away the trash from the yogurt business, but whatever. And Megan recounts how she saw her. She really wanted to talk to her, and she was like so like nerve-wracked, but she got up the courage, and it was such a wonderful exchange that really, really shaped the way that she treats people, especially now that she's a famous public figure. And it shaped the way that she feels that people need to be seen, because Yasmine looked her in the eye and asked, "What's your name?" And it was such this watershed moment. And I'm thinking to myself, it's just called being a gracious human. I mean, if you have good parents and a good upbringing, you know how to say please and thank you and say your name and look people in the eye and talk to them. But it's so this moment apparently taught her how important it is for a named person like herself to show grace and dignity to the no names. But I don't know if I believe all this, because quite honestly, I mean, she at that point had already spent quite a bit of time on the set of Married with Children. So I don't necessarily think that she would be that starstruck seeing Yasmine Bleeth. And then she says that, she told Yasmine that she was so inspired by her work in a secret deodorant commercial. And I'm just like, okay. God forbid she should say that her father taught her manners and that's how she knows how to be a good person, but I digress. So the next thing I've got in my notes here is some new age garbage I want to show you. Listen to this.
I want everyone to feel like they matter.
Yeah. Do you think our lives are divinely ordered, or like our steps are divinely ordered when you think about that moment in that example, and now it's part of your life all the time?
Someone said to me last year when I sat down, they said, well, this is your.
Hold on, guys. I'm going to prepare you for this. So, because I want to tell you what you're hearing. I personally don't see or feel any type of real spirituality coming from Megan. I think that she worships money personally. That's why she needs God's grace and fast. But so Jamie asked her, do you feel that your life is divinely ordered? And Megan is going to talk about something called a soul contract right now. And she's going to tell a story that her life and her destiny was imprinted on her soul before she even got here. And that's her soul contract. So just listen to this.
Soul contract. You signed up for this. You signed up for this before you were here. It's like, well, I didn't read the fine print. Okay. To be clear, like, can I redline this and amend the small print? Because I signed up for this and this is your lap around the sun.
Yeah. So she's divinely ordered to be in the position that she is now. That is, I was created out of love by my creator. He breathed me into existence and gave me love and worth. And he gave me free will. So I don't know what kind of new age garbage she's ascribing to, but yeah.
Yeah.
Even on the hardest days.
In my life, I have so many friends. I have one of my friends who's the strongest Catholic I know, also sees every psychic, every meeting. Like, she's like, God made them too. We're going to come.
I think if any of you have been with me for a while, you know exactly what I'm going to say here right now. Jamie Lee, I keep calling her Jamie Lee. I'm so sorry. Jamie just said that she has a friend who's the strongest Catholic that she knows who goes to psychics. Her friend is not a strong Catholic. Okay. There's absolutely nothing in Catholicism that endorses or condones psychics, tarot cards, mediums, Ouija boards. That is all dabbling in the occult, and it's all a violation of the first commandment.
And all the things.
That's funny because most people one or the other.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm so open. Like, I've had so many different people on the show. Obviously, I'm pretty open about my faith and how much I believe in God.
Jamie doesn't specify. I don't know if she even ascribes to any denomination of Christianity, because there's a lot. There's many. But usually when people are just like, I believe in God and I'm spiritual, that's fine. But I don't really know. I don't know what branch of Christianity Jamie is into. I don't suppose it's a very strong one, though, if you endorse, condone, and believe in psychic mediums and all that other crap. That's just dabbling in the occult. Yeah, but I'll get into more of that in just a sec.
I wanted to ask you this also. I feel like why I'm so grateful this show is connecting with so many people is because it's just everyone needs connection. They want to feel connected and they want to feel.
And before we move on, so she said she believes in God, all that. Okay, great. But for those who are interested in what I believe and why, the reason why you don't dab into the occult is because God has created all the parameters and all the limitations. And what he has allowed us to know is what's going on in the present and what's happened in our past. He does not want us to know about the future. And those are the parameters that he has set for our existence, this human existence here on this earth he created. And it goes back to just believing in him and trusting in him, that you may not know what's coming, but if you have trust and you have faith, you're good. And when you seek to try to find influence in places where you shouldn't, you can open doors that should not be opened. And I'll insert a little screen here. So it says, tarot card readings and psychics are almost always fraudulent as well. It's a money-making gimmick and a participation in the devil's domain. Matthew Arnold, a former tarot card reader, discusses his work and how he perfected the art of ripping people off and of telling them what they wanted to hear. He states, You learn to use the person's name and flattery. You manipulate the conversation to make them agree with the reading as it progresses. He's talking about when he would read tarot cards for people. Most of all, I learned to bombard my clients with conflicting information. And now they're so busy making connections that afterwards they're only able to remember what applied to them, and not only my words so much as the connections that they have made in their own minds, which makes it even more accurate. That being said, there are a rare few astrologers or psychics who are truly clairvoyant, meaning that they see and know things that cannot not known. Their powers are never from God, though, but always from the devil. Father Gabriel Amorth, the chief exorcist of Rome and the authority on this topic, he has performed over 70,000 exorcisms, and he warns against these dark gifts. He says, quote, particular sensibilities tend to go hand in hand with evil disturbances. For instance, predicting the future, intimate knowledge of the presence of evil forces or of unusual powers in some individuals, most of all, hearing voices and seeing visions. So it's very, very interesting that a former tarot card reader is saying, quote, if some so-called gift directly opposes scripture and the catechism, do you really think that all such gifts are from God? Counterfeit spiritual powers are not gifts. They always carry a price and possibly the loss of heaven. That the Bible in no uncertain terms condemns divination, consulting spirits, contact with the dead, trying to reveal and control the future, and says, quote, there shall not be found among you anyone who practices witchcraft or a soothsayer or one who interprets omens or a sorcerer or one who conjures spells or a medium or one who calls upon the dead. For all who do these things are an abomination to the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord your God drives them out from before you. And that's from the book of Deuteronomy in the Old Testament. And notice that in that passage from Deuteronomy, the word soothsayer is being used, and that's going to be really interesting coming up. Remember, Jamie asked her if she felt that her life was divinely ordered, and Megan talks about that soul contract that she feels like she signed, but she didn't read the fine print.
Beginning, I'm so grateful this show is connecting with so many people, is because it's just everyone needs connection. They want to feel connected, and they want to feel.
The show's about connection because everyone needs connection. Do you see what I mean? Like, this is just a bunch of nonsensical drivel.
Seen to use the words you just used, and they want to feel like less alone and more enough. And I asked Oprah this when she was on the show, why did you say yes? And she said, I felt it was divinely ordered. So I want to ask you.
So she asked her friend, Oprah, why did you agree to go on my show? And Oprah said, well, Jamie, I went on your show because it's divinely ordered. It has nothing to do with cross promoting each other's work, right? How all these elites that live in Santa Barbara County in bajillion-dollar mansions with their podcasts, they're all cross promoting each other. It has nothing to do with being divinely ordered. It's so
this question, because anybody's trust is a sacred thing. So why did you say yes to doing this show?
Because it's you. And to me, that means
because I knew you'd ask me a whole bunch of softball questions and I would never have to explain myself. And Jamie talks about how it feels so divinely ordered for her to conduct this interview and to show us, or for her to have the opportunity to show us the true Megan. And Megan is such a gift to the world and a gift to celebrate. And how can you show us the true Megan, Jamie, when Megan won't even show us the true Megan? It's just, it ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Jamie might have all the best good intentions in the world, and maybe she really is a nice person, but there is still some self-service going on here on both ends. She's obviously plugging a book that's right behind her that's called Worthy, that book. And to me, it's just a new age dressed up version of like, I'm okay, you're okay garbage from the 60s and 70s. She can sit here and tell us all she wants that she's trying to show us the real Megan, but it ain't gonna happen because Megan doesn't want us to see the real Megan. I don't think Megan likes the real Megan. Megan is wanting to persist with a fake safe persona that she feels that she's just going to keep dragging into our face, and we're going to eventually accept that she's a really, really, really good person. We just have to just give her some slack. She's really misunderstood. Let's not talk about the false accusations and the bullying claims and how I've alienated both my family and my husband's family. We're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about rocking chairs and I'm a good person. So in my notes, this is the next one I have for you guys.
I think I've seen a lot of things in my life. I have never seen anything like what you go through on a daily basis.
So this is Jamie talking about the backlash that Megan experiences on the daily. And I want you guys to pay attention to Megan's face and her body language during this, because it's very interesting. It's very much, I know. I just, so hard done by. So hard done by.
I know.
I have never seen anything like it.
I know.
I think what's so beautiful is when people connect, who are listening or watching, connect with it.
Why haven't you seen anything like it, Jamie? Well, I mean, I guess you probably aren't really into it. You don't know all the ins and outs as to why she's experiencing this backlash. And you've probably never seen anything like it because there hasn't been this level of destruction to monarchy and an institution and just all of it. Nothing like this has ever really played out in modern times. The last huge royal scandal, I mean, I guess Diana's death, but that was more a tragedy. But you had the Edward and Wallace debacle. But say what you want about Wallace and Edward, especially Wallace. Wallace knew when to keep her mouth shut. And she was more of a socialite who liked to pull the strings and get the power from in the background. She wasn't so much into putting her face out there in public as much as Meghan did. Now, she did write a book, a memoir when she got older. But still, the level of public gaslighting and the way that Meghan throws herself in our faces all the time, Wallace didn't really participate in that type of behavior. So going back to what Jamie said, she's never seen anything like it. Well, because there hasn't been this type of narcissistic, destructive person out in the public domain like this for a really, really long time. So maybe that's why she hasn't seen anything like it. I don't know.
The truth. They'll know it's true in their soul when they hear and listen to this. And that's what I think is so special. And so
I love that. And I appreciate it because the newness of our friendship, you're able to see that and think about the friends I've had for a really long time.
Well, in the newness of their friendship, I guess Jamie doesn't really know a lot about Meghan, and maybe she hasn't done her own due diligence to try to dig and find out why everyone's so angry and upset with her. It's advantageous to Meghan to continually foster and try to get new friendships constantly because she can fool them a lot easier. You know what I mean? It's harder to fool people like her half brother and half sister and people in her husband's family because by this point, they've seen the real her. So it's altogether more easy and pleasant for her to continually cultivate new friendships because she doesn't really feel like she'll have to explain herself to anybody, or she'll probably hope that they don't know much about her. They're not, freaks like us that know all this stuff because we've been following this story forever. I didn't mean to call you a freak, but you know what I mean. I'm a freak, but yeah.
And then people that I reconnect with years later who literally can go, but you're the same.
You're the same.
I'm like, I know.
Who are these people?
I know.
Yeah.
And how hard that is, but I'm the same. But that's not what gets clicks or sells papers. Hey guys, I'm still here doing the same stuff.
That's not what gets clicks and sells papers. Well, what gets clicks and sells papers are the fact that you and your husband are constantly throwing yourself out there to engage that tabloid media culture. Your husband wrote a book that trashed his entire family. You both went and sat down with Oprah Winfrey and trashed your families. You guys both put on a 6-hour Netflix documentary, trashing your families and talking about how hard done by you were in all three of these instances. You banged on constantly about how everyone was so awful to you. You were victims of racism and blind hatred for no reason. Like, what the heck is she talking about? She is so divorced from reality. It's unfreaking believable. And now Jamie's going to go into a story. I'm not going to show it to you, but Jamie's going to go into a story where she's like, yeah, like there's so much out there that I can't believe it's lies and it's just exaggerations. And I've never seen anything like it. Okay. Do you remember last summer when Meghan attended that Working Women's Summit? It was hosted by a woman named Amy Griffins in the Hamptons, and Jamie was a participant and a speaker. Meghan was seen there with those women, and she was like clutching on and holding on to Jamie a lot in pictures that came out. So she was photographed at this summit. And I remember at the time, everyone was like, oh, Meghan's showing up among all these millionaire and billionaire women entrepreneurs. She's probably trying to glob onto whoever she can and try to get all this free business advice from these people because she feels like her success will be increased the closer in she gets in proximity to successful people. So that's what that was about. So Jamie's going to tell a story how It was reported on social media and in media articles that her and Jamie were there together, sitting next to each other and talking. And Jamie was just so flabbergasted because there was so much out there talking like, oh my gosh. And it was like lies. And one of the biggest lies was her mother called her and said, are you and Megan fighting? I heard that you and Megan hate each other and we're fighting. And Jamie's like, this is so crazy. That's such a lie. Like that never happened. And there's like thousands upon thousands of articles about all this stuff. And I just can't believe it. And oh my gosh. And then at one point, Jamie even says, and yeah, and like regular people are reading this and they're thinking, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, what? What did you just say? You elitist billionaire. You said regular people read and believe this stuff. So we're regular people. We're just the plebes, okay? I just thought I would let you know. We're regular people. They are so far beyond and out of reach. So you see what I mean? I don't know what church of what's happening now Jamie goes to and Megan go to, but I mean, I think a good salt of the earth type person is not going to say that regular people. It's like, come on. So this one, let me see if I can find it to play it for you. Oh, yeah. So here is that actual clip where she's talking about us regulars. We're regulars. Okay. We're regular folks.
We got in a big fight. I'm like, huh?
I know.
And it was wild to me that, you know, regular, and she's a teacher, like she's not looking at all this stuff. So regular people are getting these articles everywhere and it's thousands of them.
Yeah.
Thousands daily.
Yes.
Thousands. Did you know there were thousands of articles talking about how Jamie and Megan hate each other? Can you believe it? And the regular people read it. So, okay. So they're better than us. They're the arbiters of truth. And Jamie was like, this is the first time I've ever been involved in tabloid culture. And it's like so horrible. Whatever. Moving on. So after this nonsense, at the 26-minute mark, look what happens.
For a brief break. And while we do, take a moment to share this episode with every single person that you know who this could.
So this is an ad break, but it's not just any ad break, okay? It's an ad break that is slick, that is produced, that goes on for nearly 4.5 minutes, you guys. And this, again, is the same little promo, it looks like, that they showed in the beginning where I'm Jamie and I wrote a book called Worthy and you should buy it and look at all my famous friends.
Get this book.
This book, I'm telling you, it's a book that can change anybody's life who picks it up.
Anybody who's ever felt
We already know about this. We don't need it as an almost 5-minute long ad break. Someone needs to really talk to Jamie about this. People don't like this garbage. I understand that when you listen to podcasts, there are ad breaks, but the person just reads the ad break real quick and then goes into it. It doesn't look like a commercial inside a podcast, but it's not even a podcast. Like I said before, this is an infomercial. So 4 minutes of this that we have to listen to. Buy her book, join her newsletter, join the Worthy movement. It's called the Worthy movement. So, okay. I know I sound kind of PO'd. I mean, I am kind of PO'd when I listen to this stuff, but I like to get into the weeds with this and show you how just deceptive this type of talk is and this type of marketing and this type of garbage. There's nothing here that's helping anybody. So now what we're going to get into is the narrative that Megan loves to perpetuate, that she never ever reads anything that's written about her. And if she does, it's only about maybe the 1%. The 1%. So here we go.
You see stories, whether they're in magazines or online.
I just have created such a strong boundary for myself. And even we go like, no, but
Who believes that? This woman doomsday scrolls all day long. That's all she does. Everything that she puts out in her interviews or articles like that New York Times thing or whatever's going on in People or whatever, or when she's on her own podcast, it's always in direct response and her clapping back to stuff that's being written about her. So she needs to stop this garbage narrative of hers that she doesn't listen to or read or watch anything about her, because we all know that is a complete and total lie, in my humble opinion.
It's like there was this quote that I had up in my trailer when I was on Suits, talk about being a soothsayer or if it's divinely ordered.
See, she called herself a soothsayer. What do you all think of that? I don't know. But a lot of times evil hides in plain sight, doesn't it? Okay. So she's going to talk about how even before she was famous, even before she was a celebrated duchess, that in her trailer, when she was on Suits, she had something up on the wall in there talking about how you just have to let all the bad vibes go and all this. Why don't we let Megan tell this story?
How on earth would this be the quote that I had printed up in my trailer? And I was on that show for almost 7 years. And it says, I've already settled it for myself. So flattery and criticism go down the same drain.
Who here believes that she takes flattery and criticism the exact same way? Or who doesn't believe that?
And I'm quite free. And it's a very hard thing to put into action to actually integrate.
Yeah.
But it's become so ingrained in my mind because it was there before it actually applied to me on a level like this. I've really...
Well, she's a psychic medium soothsayer, so she had to have known that, right? Because that was in her soul contract that she signed. Her soul contract told her that she was going to have that in her trailer when she was a successful actress for 7 seasons on Suits. This is all such drivel nonsense. It's such a waste of time. It's such self-promotion. Have you learned anything from this so far? Have you learned any type of nugget that doesn't have anything to do with one of these 2 ladies that you could take and apply to your life so that you could get, I don't know, better at business, better parent, better whatever, all the stuff that they're talking about and trying to peddle, because there's such successes in those areas. They're not imparting any kind of great wisdom on us to get better in those situations. And you ain't going to find it here. Okay. I look to my church and to my Bible and to my God to tell me how to become a success in life. We need to stop allowing people like this. I'm fired up. Sorry, guys.
tried to distance myself from all of it. And that has challenges too. It does. You know, I'm oblivious.
So what is she teaching her daughter? Behave badly, behave in a disgusting fashion, like the way this woman has behaved in the public eye. But yet you don't have to have accountability for it, because any criticism about what you do, just take it just like you would flattery. It's all the same. I mean, can you what type of values that people like this are imparting to their children? Not that I think that narcissistic personalities like this care or spend any time with their kids at all, but I'm just saying that they're going to look and watch by example what her and Harry do. And that's basically what Meghan's behavior tells her children, is that there's zero accountability for behaving badly, because it's this horrible criticism and I'm a victim, and just let it just bathe over you. Baptism by fire, and it doesn't matter.
But that allows me to live my life really authentically, make choices authentically. But it also allows me to really detach from the outcome. I can just show up. I can put good work out there. I feel confident with what we've...
By whose standards? By whose standards is the work she's putting out good? Because if you don't listen to any criticism about you, that right there is a huge character flaw. Whether you feel it's warranted or not, at some point, the avalanche of criticism at this point hasn't woken this woman up to the fact that maybe she's doing something wrong. At this point, at this level, she's still going to be eyes closed. I don't hear you. La, 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 la. Like, what? Make this make sense. So I guess ignore it all and live according to your definition of authenticity and truth. And that's advice from Meghan herself.
created and then let it go. So to answer your question, maybe 1% of what's in the world I would see, and only if it's brought to me and said, like, you should really read this. You will learn something from it.
Who believes that she's going to allow an unpaid intern or whoever's working for her to come up to her and be like, here's an article where people are saying that they don't like your behavior and the way you've completely disrespected and tried to trash
a 1,000-year-old institution called the British Royal Family. And I think you should read this article because it would really make you a better person if you could see what you did wrong.
Who believes this garbage? Come
Is
on.
really good insight, or I think you'll appreciate how this journalist really wants to get the story right, or the text of like, hey, just sending love and checking in. Your hackles go up. About what? What now?
Oh, here she's talking about how when people sometimes text just a rando text from a friend or something saying, oh, are you okay? And that makes her put her feelers up because she knows that there's probably something new, negative about her in the press. But doesn't that directly contradict what she just told us in the last 2 minutes? She just told us that she only listens to or cares to 1% of stuff. So even if that were true and people are texting her like, are you okay? Why would her hacklers or whatever she said go up? Like it just shouldn't matter, right? Because she's already told us that she's a soothsayer. And back in the day, the little thing she had stuck on her wall on her thing in her trailer said that don't listen to it anyway. So see what I mean? This is just, you remember when Samantha, her half sister, was like lie upon lie upon lie? You cannot get to the real Megan. Who is this person?
What is it now? What are they reading now? Why are they sending love and checking in?
Yeah.
You can get yourself a little bit nuts with it, as opposed to maybe they are just sending love and checking in.
It's like, you're oblivious to the truth of your situation. You're oblivious to the truth. And whether or not you believe you're a good person or not, how long are you going to be oblivious to the truth that there are masses of people out there that don't like what you've done? They don't like your behavior. How long are you going to turn a blind eye to that? It's just unbelievable. Or like when she talks about how she can appreciate it when people out there, at least of the 1% that she pays attention to, she can appreciate when they actually work hard to get the story right about her. What do you mean? Are you talking about those rag mags like in People? Or are you talking about the Vanity Fair article that came out in January 2025? This massive, I mean, how many thousands upon thousands of words, and how well researched was that article that went into detail, interviewing people that had worked for her since she's been here in America, talking about how she's a bully, talking about it's hard to work for her and her husband, their business failures, all this stuff. Was that an example of them trying to get it right? A well-researched article like that? Probably not in her eyes. And then for the next few minutes or so, they talk about the As Ever launch and how she sold out. Still, we don't know how much she sold out and whatever. We don't even know how many she made. She could have made 100 jars of spread and that's what sold out. We have no freaking clue. And Megan ain't offering up any information that could be pertinent to the conversation. But I digress. And then she goes on about how the world wonders, do I work? Do I work? And they don't see all the hard work that I've been doing behind the scenes for years. And she gasps, and I have written down here as her quote, she says, I worked so hard and I appreciate what hard work looks like. And I like working hard and I'm still working hard. And then she starts in with all of this rehearsed business jargon of hers. I'm constantly focusing on edits to my Netflix show and edits to my podcast and photography and like what I'm going to wear for the ad campaigns and my newsletter and like testing my products. And she talks about my tranche of SKUs. She's talked like that in the Time 101 interview, that one from last week. Sorry, I'm all over the place, where she was like, yeah, like my tranche of SKUs. I guess meaning when they say SKUs, they're talking about what items specifically are they going to bring to market. But she's constantly talking that way so that a non-entrepreneurial regular like us watching, she has to insert the business jargon to, again, remind us how hard she's working. So she really wants us to think that she is in the thick of it. And this is a very hard thing for her to do. It's a hard thing for her to juggle. She has so many plates in the air, but it's just what she does. And in the midst of all this, trying to just manage this hugely successful, complicated business with all these moving parts, she still really just loves to make people smile. And that's just the focus. She just wants to be a giver and give to everyone in her life. Just the fact that you have time and energy to make up gift baskets for your friends. And she's going to go into this a little bit later. Just the fact that you have time to do that clues me into maybe that you're not working as hard as you think you are. And you're not really giving anybody any meat as to how you formed the business and what you do in the day-to-day. That's what people want to know, the day-to-day. How do you come up with the idea? How do you market your idea? What software do you use in your business? Basic stuff like that. People want to know. So if she's as mired in the details as she says she is, she should be willing and able, if this is what she's doing, like offering business advice, she should be able to do that, but she doesn't do that. It's all surface level. It's all just navigating on the surface. And like I said before, her experience as an entrepreneur is nothing like the experience of, say, you or I would be if we decided to start an online business or a brick and mortar. We don't have unlimited time, money, resources the way that this woman does. And then they start complaining about how hard business is and it's so hard. And Megan's like, working fuels her. And she was so tickled to be featured in the New York Times article. A normal entrepreneur is not going to be able to have the PR money to throw at the New York Times to talk about their business. They have to work hard and build a name for themselves by word of mouth to even get to the point where a mainstream media outlet would maybe talk about their business. So this is all just so divorced from reality. It's just nuts. And then there's a moment here that I have, I wrote in my notes, play this dumb moment at 37:20. So let me see where we're at. Here we go, guys.
Boxes. Keep in mind, so that the actual brand and business is happening with all of these products that we've tested and tested and tested to scale it to what I'm making on my stove.
Yeah.
Did she really test and test and test and test though? I don't know, because the reviews for the products were pretty scathing. I don't think too many people like that spread. They called it sauce and it ain't jam.
You're a hard worker. There are times we get together and I'm like, I just want to have DoorDash come in. And you're like, let's make some. And I'm like, I know, I just want a glass of wine and hang out. And you're like,
I need a glass
like,
of wine
it's
right
in you.
now.
I was going to ask you that actually.
So I won't go too much into this part, but it's funny. It'll be a kind of cute little antidote later. So Jamie's like, yeah, you're a hard worker. Da, da, da. So yeah, Megan's such a hard worker. And then when I come to your house and I just want to chit chat like girls and have a wine and let's just order DoorDash, Megan. But Megan insists, no, I'm going to cook something from scratch. And she says, hi, Jamie's like, all I want is DoorDash. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, of course, Megan calls DoorDash. Of course she does. If you're this exhausted from building your spread empire, why wouldn't you want to call DoorDash? Why do you have to further this narrative that you're just so this wonderful Mother Earth hostess that you have to cook all the time, even when it's inconvenient for you? This is so stupid. And then we all know how Megan loves her way around a veggie board. And I just want you to listen to this. This is Jamie talking about what a great hostess Megan is.
Just to share some kind of fun moments, because I really want to take people behind the scenes into this. The first time.
I thought we were already behind the scenes though. Isn't that the point of the no makeup and the rocking chairs? I'm just saying.
So I know you look at all the data, it is impossible to have a true friendship or a true relationship with anybody, a true connection if you don't show up fully authentically.
Yes.
And I
Well, duh. See what I mean? What are they
remember you're at my house and I've seen all the beautiful stuff you make. You just like make these things.
You're
You
not
and I were
like a cheap
raised
plate.
with TV dinners on
Yes.
a TV tray.
Again, Megan was really hard done by. But remember, she posted on her Instagram that her dad used to take her to a very famous and mid to high range price point steakhouse. That's really, I forget what it's called. Maybe I'll find it and throw it up somewhere. And her dad was making pretty decent money working on Married with Children. So she survived on TV dinners, you guys.
I remember you came over. I'm like, I'm going to make Megan a charcuterie tray, which I just learned that word a few years ago, charcuterie. Anyways, so I put it all together and I looked at it. And I remember you came over and I was like,
So Jamie wanted to impress Megan because I guess Jamie really feels like Megan is a great hostess who really knows how to party. So she's going to make a veggie tray and listen to what happens here.
Proud of you. The effort was A for effort.
it was an A for effort. And
Okay, so this is Jamie's charcuterie board, and Megan's like, well, A for effort. What's wrong with that? I'd be happy. Dang, I would just like freaking grab that dang carrot like it was like I was Bugs Bunny and start gnawing on it. Like that looks good to me. You got your cheese, you got your little dressing. Looks like you got a little thing of grapey grapes there. Your salami. What's wrong with that? But Megan's gonna be like, it wasn't that great, but A for effort. It's really sad that Jamie is gonna lower herself like this and make it seem like Megan's so much better than her. Nobody is better than anybody. This is such nonsense.
But I just remember just being like, if we're going to have a real friendship. And then I asked you, I'm like, okay, just so I know, what would you do to like make it like a little bit more aesthetically pleasing? And then
Yeah, because Megan's always concerned about how things look, not by what's under the wrapping. It's all about the way things look. Maybe this happened, maybe it didn't. But what does this have to do with anything? It's so dumb, you guys. It's just so dumb. And it's going to get worse. So she basically tells Megan, "What could I have done to make this veggie tray better?"
it felt like somehow
And
you had
Megan's
this
going to
magic wand,
educate
and in
her.
like 10 seconds, you go in my pantry, you go in the fridge, and you like do these things. And I look down at it and I'm like, what in the world? Like, it looks like a cover of a magazine.
Who's going to do that? Who's going to go into a friend's house and do that? And I don't believe they're as close as friends as they're making out that they are. What Megan should have done to be a gracious person is, this is more than fine. Thank you so much for thinking of me and putting this together. Don't trouble yourself in the slightest. There's nothing you could have done that could have been better. Don't worry about it. Maybe that's me.
In you. And so 2 questions. One is, where did that come from? And, but also a year ago now, I remember someone else's kid falling on the playground. You're the first one to run over.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
You're taking care of that child like right away. I've seen you do this in multiple places. You speak of strawberries. When I was like super stressed out one time, I had in-laws and all these people visiting.
Okay, so this is where we're getting into something that is kind of juicy, because this has been making the rounds in the media the last few days. So Jamie is going to tell a story here about how she was super stressed out because she was hosting in-laws and had a house full of people. And Megan, because Megan's everyone's fairy godmother. Sorry, guys, I'm talking to you while I'm trying to find this one spot. Megan, being the wonderful domestic goddess that she is, puts together a little basket of, I guess, what looks like jam and some organic strawberry ice cream here with a little leaf in it, with a bunch of fluffer filler paper. But on this card, it says, with the compliments of HRH, the Duchess of Sussex. So that's been making the rounds all over the media right now about how, even though this is in private, mind you, she's using the HRH, the royal title, which she was told not to do per the Sandringham agreement. So this right here is where we've come. So how many years after marrying into this family? 7 years. Now, this is what it's come down to. Her giving baskets of ice cream out to these rich elitists in Montecito and trying to lord her title over them. If they're really such good friends, why would you give somebody a basket with your royal title on it? How pretentious can you be? I mean, the amount of pretentiousness on display here, I can't.
Sauce to put on top of the ice cream just to see if that helps lighten my load. It was like as if.
And I'm really glad that Jamie posted that. I don't know if Megan knew she was going to or not, but she's been called out now. And I guarantee you that there are people back at the palace, probably William, who is hearing about some of this and is not happy about it. Absolutely, just probably infuriated, because again, that was part of the Sandringham agreement. And I guess technically, I don't know, decorum states that they could use it in private if they want. But then again, it's like, why would you want to? Why would you want to? The reason why she does is because she feels less than. She doesn't really have the creative chops that a lot of famous people do in Hollywood. She doesn't have the business acumen like, say, a Jamie Kern here has to start and sell $1 billion business. But what she does have is a royal title that she can use to lord over these people. So let me show you. I have down here on my notes 4119.
I've read a lot of people also just love it because it just helps them feel calm. They just want to like.
Oh, they're talking about her Netflix
be
show
in
right
that
here.
world. Knowing how to do all these things, is it a passion you've studied hard for, or is it just this innate talent?
I think I have a really classic aesthetic in terms of how I see things. I've never, ever considered myself artistic.
Now, this part wasn't prepared, I don't think, on Megan's part, because just listen to what she says. She says, I've never considered myself artistic.
So it's really odd to voice that now as all this is people are like talking about my handwriting or how I put a plate together or how I put an outfit together.
So you see what she did there? She's trying to be self-effacing, as if to say, I've never considered myself to be creative and I've never considered myself to be artistic. And I know that flies in the face of my beautiful calligraphy and my show and all my artistic endeavors. I don't think people are thinking that everything she's putting out is as good as she thinks it is, but she gave herself away. She thinks that what she's putting out is wonderful because it flies in the face of what she thinks about herself. She, at her heart, thinks she's not creative or artistic, but she's telling us, I know, but all the things I do and throw out there,
That
aren't
stuff or
they
not.
artistic and great?
Whether they're learning by watching the show.
I think people are hate watching that show. I mean, I don't even think anyone's watching it anymore. I think it's really gone down in the ratings. But yeah, here's another one where Megan's talking about being a person that gives gifts all the time and is always thinking of other people and her attention to detail.
But it's attention to detail. And what does attention to detail for me mean? It's kind of rooted in what people's experience of it is going to be. So it makes them happy to receive it. It makes me happier to give it to them.
You see what she did there as well? It's not about the person that she's giving the gift to. The ultimate goal is how it makes her feel so good because they're going to think she's a good person for giving them things and for thinking of them with these gift baskets and all this nonsense that she does. See that? How very slight and tricky the wording and the jargon that these people use to manipulate others.
I knew when I dropped off that strawberry, it wasn't even preserved because we had a lot of strawberries at the time. And I heard what you were saying and how many people were there. And I just knew that even if we never talked about it, that it would brighten your day in what was probably a really overwhelming day.
You hear what she did there? The sleight of hand that she did in her wording there too. She was like, I did this. And even if we never talked about it, which is a veiled way of saying, even if you never acknowledged it or thanked me, it still gave her so much joy. So she's setting it up so that she gives and gives and gives without wanting acknowledgement or even a basic thank you. That doesn't matter to her. She's only going to do it because it just makes her feel so good to do it. Who believes that garbage? Of course, people like to get a thank you. Of course, someone wants to know that the person that they've done something for is grateful. It's always the constant that I'm so pure of heart and wonderful that I do these things. And I don't care if you acknowledge it and I don't care if you see it and I don't want the credit. This is just who I am. This is just a bunch of garbage. And we are coming up to the end of part 1 here. It's always just talking about how the other person is going to think of her because she's such a wonderful person. And again, all goes back to her. She wants the recognition. She wants the adoration. And that's what she has been searching for. That's what she wants. She wants adoration. So this is now the end of part 1. Stay tuned for part 2, you guys. It'll be coming up very, very soon. We get into more juiciness with this little dog and pony show here. Let me know in the comments down below what has been the most cringy moment for you so far. If you have a narcissistic type personality in your life, or if you've been damaged by them, or even if you've been lucky enough not to, or you just feel gaslit by elitists like this that are just constantly in our faces trying to make it seem like they're so much better than us and it just drives you nuts, let me know in the comment down below. But I will talk to you guys very, very soon. Bye.